to the American Veterans Memorial Association, who have hosted the gathering of remembrance for 81 consecutive years, making it the longest running Memorial Day event in Orange County. This is an extremely well organized, very special and important event. I had the pleasure of coming here yesterday to be able to walk through the grounds here and just marveled at the number of flags and crosses that you see displayed before you today. This is a civilian cemetery, but the number of veterans is just simply amazing. I heard a lot about this event even before I had the opportunity to be invited, and thank you for that again. And I think it could best be described as Gerald Dunford, who had the honor of serving as your guest speaker in 2010, described this event as world-class. And that's exactly what we see before you here today. This is absolutely a world-class event, and we thank you all for the organization and the efforts put forth each and every year. So I thank our military veterans who are here to pay tribute to the brothers and sisters in arms who paid the ultimate sacrifice for freedom. We honor their memory and vow to carry on their legacy of excellence. And also thank you to our distinguished guests and people of Southern California for coming today and paying tribute to our fallen. And last, but definitely not least, our deepest and most heartfelt thank you goes to our Gold Star families. These are the surviving family members who have lost their loved ones in service to our nation. The sacrifices of our fallen are cherished forever in the hearts of their survivors. We are forever in your debt. Please give them a round of applause. So here we are on Memorial Day. And Memorial Day was originally known as Decoration Day. It was first widely observed May 30th, 1868, to commemorate the sacrifices of Civil War soldiers and to honor the nation's Civil War dead by decorating their graves. The Honorable General John A. Logan, the Commander-in-Chief of the Veterans Organization, Grand Army of the Republic, proclaimed May 30th as Decoration Day by General Order Number 11. The Uniform Monday Holiday Act moved Memorial Day from May 30th to the last Monday in May. The law took effect in 1971 at the federal level and has now become what we recognize as our Memorial Day. Throughout our nation's history, men and women have always answered the call to serve. General Douglas MacArthur once said, "The soldier, above all others, prays for peace. For it is the soldier who must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." Even with that in mind, men and women have always had a desire to serve. They have answered this call from the Revolutionary War, which secured our independence, through today and our current wars that fight the scourge of terrorism and extremism. They have not done it for personal glory or fame, and certainly not for wealth. They did it because they knew there was a higher calling to serve others over themselves. They chose and continue to choose serving, knowing that they would one day be called out to make the ultimate sacrifice because the nation and our world needs them. The first to pay tribute that ultimate cost was a man named Isaac Davis on April 19th, 1775. He was a gunsmith from Acton, Massachusetts. Davis served as a Minuteman with his local militia. During the Battle of Concord, his company was selected to advance first on the British. When asked if his company was afraid, Davis is said to have replied, "No, I'm not afraid, and I haven't a man that is." Over the years, there will be many more men and women who too would give their lives here at home and around the world in service to our nation. The most recent service member to die in the line of duty was PFC Michael A. Thomason, of Lincoln Park, Michigan. He died April 29th, 2019. Died in Syria and wounds sustained from a non-combat incident. Thomason was an infantryman assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 327th Infantry Regiment, 1st Brigade, 101st Airborne Division out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I want to highlight PFC Thompson's to emphasize that though we may be isolated from the horrors of war here at home, every day we have men and women around the globe still serving in very dangerous places, doing very dangerous work. This year marks the 101st year of what was supposed to be the end of all wars. Many thought that the lessons learned from World War I would give the world the perspective and understanding the tremendous cost of war. But just like then, we have had to answer the call to uproot and end tyranny when it raised its ugly head for the good of us all. With us here today are the men and women who undertook this selfless calling and have lost dear friends while doing so. Among them are those who represent the soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, the Marines, Coast Guardsmen, who defeated the Nazis in Europe and North Africa, fought the greatest naval battles in the history of the Pacific, raised the American flag at Iwo Jima, beat back communist aggression in Korea, braved the Mekong Delta in Vietnam, freed Kuwait from the clutches of Saddam Hussein, brought retribution to the terrorists for the attacks of 9/11 in the mountains of Afghanistan, and liberated the people of Iraq. There are many more who will continue to protect the American way of life and interests in distant lands and seas, fighting terrorist organizations based on destruction, turmoil, and anarchy. But just like in our past, America faces crucial moments ahead. Today, more than ever, our military is becoming further detached from its civilian counterparts. It is not due to a lack of love and goodwill received from the American public. That outpouring is genuine and real. Their continued support means the world to those of us who don the uniform, and we thank you. However, rather it's due to the lack of substantial connections to our civilian communities. Today, there are a little more than 2 million men and women serving in both the active and reserve component of our military. That is less than 1% of the 327 million people in our country. 1 in 4 service members of the children of other service members are veterans. 1 in 4. And nearly 80% of all service members have an extended family who served. Our military, your military, is becoming an increasingly segmented portion of America. Combine this with the fact that the number of living veterans we have in the United States will continue to shrink from the 20 million of today to about 13 million over the next 20 years. Why is this important? It's important because it creates a gap of understanding at a time when the demands on our military are actually growing. A recent poll showed that 84% of veterans agree that the general public doesn't really understand the problems faced by the military and their families. The more the public understands what the military does and faces, the better we can help meet the needs of the men and women who choose to put on the uniform to serve our nation. These are the people who have taken an oath to support and defend the core principles that made us into the great nation we are today. Those same principles that will keep us the land of the free for generations to come. For the first time since the end of the Cold War, the U.S. military's technological dominance is being challenged by states who seek to contest and disrupt American operations across every domain: air, land, sea, space, and cyberspace. These challenges have the potential to expand the modern battlefield beyond anything we have known in terms of tempo, lethality, range, and breadth of destruction. We must therefore meet the threats of this new strategic environment with the forces that are ready to respond to the challenges of today. and win decisively on the battlefields of tomorrow. Where we're going is not where we have been. I stand before you as commanding general of the 79th Theater Sustainment Command, the second largest command in America's Army Reserve. 20,000 soldiers strong. It's rooted in the battles of World War I. It was the lessons of that war that led to creating the Army Reserve of today. The same Army Reserve that was served the nation through 2 world wars, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, overseas contingency operations, countless other crises, operations, and emergencies. I'll tell you, we are committed to a new model of operational readiness that will build and sustain the most capable, combat-ready, and lethal Federal Reserve Force in the history of the nation. But we cannot do it alone. We need the help of the American people. One of the great things about America's Army Reserve is we are in almost every community in America. Our soldiers are your co-workers, your kids' teachers. They serve in your police and fire departments. They're your doctors, your nurses, and they're living in your neighborhood. They serve the Army part-time, at least 1 week in a month and 2 weekends a year, in their fields that augment their diverse civilian careers. Their diversity of education, experiences, and commitment brings skills that strengthen our military. Talk with them. Ask about the challenges that they face, and look for ways you can support their service to our nation. I also ask you to seriously consider service as an option for yourself and those you know and mentor. 3 in 4 post-9/11 veterans agreed that their military experience has helped them get ahead in life. And 96% say they are extremely proud of their service. I challenge you to find anything that 96% of people agree on today. Closing the gap in understanding, along with the efforts of groups like the people gathered here today, will not only help ensure our security for generations to come, but will reinforce the meaning of Memorial Day. It will ensure that the ultimate sacrifice for our brothers and sisters in arms will never be forgotten. And today will not just be thought of as a day of cooking out and celebrating the start of summer with family and friends. It will ensure that the names of American service members etched on gravestones around the United States and the world will be properly remembered and honored for the willingness to put themselves second. Finally, I want to give one more thank you to our Gold Star families that have been the most affected by those we have lost. They know better than anyone what this day means. These mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, and children will forever carry with them the memories of someone who can never be replaced. Their perseverance deserves our unconditional and unyielding support and admiration. We must continue to care for the survivors and families of our fallen heroes. Just 2 weeks ago, I met with the family of Sergeant Paul Nakamura. Our headquarters building, which is located in Los Alamitos, California, is named after Sergeant Nakamura. Paul, affectionately known as Toku by his family and friends, was from Santa Fe Springs, California. He was an all-American kid growing up. He was a Cub Scout and Boy Scout who loved to swim and surf. He loved swimming so much he played water polo, and you got to be a good swimmer to play water polo. That's a tough sport. And he worked as a lifeguard, teaching others to swim. His family and friends knew him as a rascal and as a real risk taker. He was a young man beloved by his friends, his family, and his fellow soldiers. If you asked any of them, they always remember him smiling and having a very positive attitude. Sergeant Nakamura loved his country. It was this love of country that drove him to serve. He told his mom and dad he wanted to serve because of how proud he was to be born in the United States. He was a medic assigned to the 437th Medical Company out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. On June 19, 2003, Sergeant Nakamura was rendering aid to another soldier in the back of their field litter ambulance when it was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. Sergeant Paul Nakamura became the first Army Reserve soldier and first Japanese American to be killed in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He was a special young man who had a tremendously positive effect on everyone he met. His battle buddy, then Sergeant Corey Carranza, who was also wounded in the attack on their ambulance, named his son after Paul. At the dedication to name our headquarters building in 2014, Carranza said, "Here I am, 11 years later, and I find myself looking at my children, my son, named after him, and my daughter, who completely coincidentally was born on the birthday of Paul Nakamura. And I think to myself how those 2 years that I knew Paul have completely and utterly dominated my life in a positive way." So Memorial Day is, and always should be, a call to remember the lives of the men and women like Sergeant Nakamura. Their courage, their legacy, their service, and their sacrifice. Thank you again for allowing me to speak here today. Thank you to the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Their commitment and sacrifice are not and will never be forgotten. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.